Thank you. I would like to, we're hearing a lot about what is driving the costs. I talked about the Superfund premium. I think from the testimony, we may not have the same name for it, but it's falling under the same umbrella of what I was talking about. Let me just kind of dig deeper on this remediation plan holdup, Mr. Fox, that you've talked about. Is it a matter of the best strategy to clean up a particular site? Is it arguing over the best way to do it? We've heard it's not really arguing over who's going to pay for it, or is that the holdup, or is it the science has not been done, or I don't know. Point to one or two or three things in this process that we could change that would make this go faster.
So first of all, I want to say I don't think the holdup is who's responsible for it.
Okay.
That's not the holdup in my mind.
Okay.
I'm going to echo what Mr. Riddell said, and that is there are very known ways to evaluate what the risk is at the site and how to clean them up. Some sites are more complicated than others, but those general principles that I mentioned about knowing who's exposed, knowing what they're exposed to, and eliminating those pathways, I don't want to use the wrong term, but it's not rocket science.
Right.
We've been doing this for a long time. What happens is the process is so cumbersome. The reports, the back
Meetings.
and forth on scientific stuff. It's not a science project where you have to study every molecule.
Mm-hmm.
You can get there much faster, get a remedy selected. And by the way, Superfund contains a fail-safe because the statute requires that every 5 years the remedy that is selected and implemented is reviewed to see whether it is protective of the environment. Mm-hmm. So let's get it done through a much more streamlined remedy selection process. That is the major holdup as I see it.
Okay. Mr. Riddell, I'm going to ask you, I'm assuming that you've done cleanups for Superfund sites and cleanups for private or state level cleanups. Okay.
Right.
So I want to contrast those. When you do a cleanup, say for a state or maybe for a private entity, and you don't have this cumbersome process, would you agree with Mr. Fox that some of the things that are thrown into the Superfund process? So how does that work in a different when you're doing it for the state or for a private entity? You mentioned a site in West Virginia that's a Superfund site you're getting ready to do at the McElroy mine. Is that correct?
That's not a Superfund site, but I have a better example.
Okay.
The site we closed on in 2022 in Indiana was a Superfund site. If we'd have done that cleanup under the voluntary program of Indiana versus how we did it under the Superfund program, just my consulting costs alone and to some extent my legal costs, probably 2 times more doing it on the Superfund site than if we were in doing that same work under a voluntary program. And as Rob said, I mean, it's almost like, when you have your little kid anxious to go out and play, when we have a site, we want to clean it up. We want to get started with the remedial investigation and get to the RA. And Superfund, you got to stop. You got to do your QAP. You got to do that. You get so many extra plans that you have to do. A QAP, by way of example, Quality Assurance Project Plan, where you go through basically a real thorough analysis of the laboratories that you're going to use, the laboratory you're going to use to test the groundwater, the dirt, and things. And it's it's a very detailed process. It's an expensive process. There's smart people involved. But we're using EPA certified labs. So, on the volunteer
So they're already
side,
certified.
we're already using an EPA certified lab, but I have to do this extra level of detail to satisfy the Superfund requirements. That's one small example, but it just compounds. It compounds. Instead of getting focused on what are the issues, how do we deal with them, and how do we clean them up to be protective of human health and environment, and then integrated development, we're still in this process of this plan, that plan, this plan.
Right. So, I mean, it begs the question, if you're using an EPA-certified lab, why do you have to keep going back and recertifying?
Beg my questions, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Fox, let me ask you from the folks that live in and around Superfund sites. They have great economic development promise, in my view, because they are clean. You don't have, it's much easier for a developer in some cases to come in because the work's already been done. What do you see when you go into different communities about the restlessness of why is it taking so long? not adding the economics onto the health issues that are sometimes associated with these sites. I mean, I think what we're doing is we're stymieing communities from being able to have confidence that they can, A, redeveloped or be living in a healthy community.
I agree with you 100%. I see it over and over again. Communities are frustrated because the potential exists for a win-win-win. Redevelopment of the site, protective of their human health and the environment, and the longer it goes on, they become distrustful.
Right.
They become distrustful of EPA, they become distrustful of the private parties who are doing the work, and it feeds upon itself. Speeding up the process will get this back to productive use and eliminate the exposure of these communities, and they will eliminate that distrust.
Right. Thank you.